One of the things that I love about having a TC is that while I can appreciate a good Excel spreadsheet, I like them. I think they're fun to do. I like to nerd out on that sometimes. It's definitely not my calling. It's definitely not what I want to do, because any of you who have come here with me before, you will know I am not the details person. I am big picture, I'm strategy, I'm like looking 10 years down the road. I am not the details person.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another session of Build Your Business with Brittany. I'm Brittany, a real estate agent, coach, and investor, and every Thursday at 2 p.m. we gather to share tips, strategies, and insights to help you grow your business to the next level. Whether you're a brand new agent or a seasoned pro, there's something in these trainings for you. Now let's jump into this week's topic.
Open to close, navigating the life of a transaction. And I have with us TC extraordinaire, Miss Cynthia Gomez. Let me talk about where we're going today. So we're going to talk about the contract to close and actually walking through the whole process. And Cynthia's going to talk about her role as a TC in that process. And then we're also going to talk through just what we would do on the agent side as well. That's where we're going to spend the bulk of our time. Then we're going to talk about command opportunities, and we're going to talk about some checklists in command and a couple of things that we're going to dive in there. Then we're going to touch on allied resources. We're going to talk about how to win, what is important now, and then of course our bonus at the end. So be sure you stay till the end with us. So Cynthia, tell us a little bit about yourself and where you come from and why you are in here with us today.
Well, a little bit about me. I started TCing just part-time, kind of something that I did for one agent. Quickly, I realized that I love creating checklists. I love organizing, and I love Excel sheets. And so little by little, I started just helping another agent and another agent. And finally, I decided, you know what? I feel like I'm good at this. Agents are really liking my services. So let me go ahead and decide to try it full time after COVID and see where it takes me. Little did I know, agents realize that TCs are really helpful. And so one agent referred me to another agent, and it just kind of grew from referral base. So right now I have 4 TCs. We service Georgia, Florida, and all California. And I have about 150 agents in my team and about 32 different brokerages we service now. And yeah, I love it, and it's still growing. So I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. And I started working with Cynthia when she came in here to our office, because one of the things that I think is really valuable is that she is here in person. I am actually somebody who works really well virtually and, like, oh, we can pick up the phone or text each other or whatever, but it is invaluable having somebody here in the office. And I have found that to be true. So she's here in our office, but of course, the bulk of what TCs do is really virtual or, but it's nice to be able to pop in and bug her a little bit. So one of the things that I love about having a TC is that while I can appreciate a good Excel spreadsheet, I like them. I think they're fun to do. I like to nerd out on that sometimes. It's definitely not my calling. It's definitely not what I want to do, because any of you who have come here with me before, you will know I am not the details person. I am big picture. I'm strategy. I'm like looking 10 years down the road. I am not the details person. Even when I fill out my own RPAs and stuff, I'm like, whoops, that was a miss. So like how Angelica was just saying, make sure you read it and reread it. I'm like, yeah, that was for me, because I am not the details person. So can I do my own TCing? Can I do my own paperwork? Absolutely. Can you do it? Yes. Should you do it? Is that the best use of your time? And so that's what we really have to consider. I mean, to me, I don't want to say it. I will say it. TCs are worth their weight in gold, but in particular, I just feel like what they charge is minuscule in compared to what they do for us. So let's jump in and let's break it down and go through the process. So I'm going to read the process and a little bit about what we do, and then Cynthia, I want you to jump in and talk about the TC's position on that. Not position, you know what I mean? All right. So first things first, our offer is accepted. Woohoo! We're going to go on the listing side and the buyer side for each of these. So of course, first and foremost, we celebrate. Yay! The listing agent usually is the one who opens escrow, but we notify our TC. And what does our TC do?
So I make sure I collect all of the documents, and I will review them to make sure all the i's were dotted and t's were crossed. If anything is left blank, I do bring it up to the agent's attention, and I will ask, hey, did you need to leave it blank? Do I need to prepare an addendum?
So when it comes to the RPA, the RLA, those are usually things that the agent will fill out. The agent fills out the purchase agreement and the listing agreement. So keep in mind that there are things that the TC cannot do because they are not usually licensed. Are you licensed?
No.
Yeah, they're not usually licensed, and so they cannot do certain parts of the role of the agent. Some of those things are like the negotiating, kind of anything that deals with like the money aspect or talking about changing terms or anything like that, they can't do it. So when we're writing an initial document, we are the ones who write that in and who fill that out, and then we send it on to her. Once it's fully executed, then she can open escrow with whoever the escrow person is, whoever we choose. As far as the RLA goes, do you fill that out? Do you have?
So most of my.
I know I fill it out.
Yeah, you fill it out and then you send it to me after it's been executed and uploaded. You'll send it to me, and so I have it ready to go. So when your offer is accepted, it's already in the system.
Yeah, so even before our offer is accepted, if we have a listing, then we're gonna fill out the listing agreement, send it to
Send it to
Cynthia,
me.
and she already is gonna start filling out like her forms and getting everything ready before we're even, like I have a listing right now that's just registered. I've already sent her the info, so she gets everything going. So you don't have to have an offer accepted before you bring her in the loop. Same thing with escrow. You know, we use Opus Escrow. I use Opus Escrow, and I will open a pre-escrow with them because they can give me a prelim title report. They can give me a net sheet. They can give me all kinds of stuff. And so I open it as early as I can, even before my listing appointment. I'll say, hey, I have a listing appointment coming up. Can you get me a net sheet? And I might ask them, you know, they might get me a prelim too, and the title reports and things like that. So,
And yeah, if I get the listing contract ahead of time too, I can also make sure that it's in command for you. The opportunity, if you haven't created it already, I'll create it for you.
yeah, so that's another good point is that when you have, and we'll talk about this as we jump into command, but when you're in command, you can go in as the agent and you can, you know, change everything in your command settings and all of that. But then she's able to go in and she can upload all the documents. So all of our documents are stored in command. It's a file storage system too. And so Cynthia is able to go in and upload it all for you. Again, can I do it? Absolutely. I know how to. Do I want to? No, I don't want to do that. I want to spend my time doing other things like getting more clients and moving on to the next so I can give Cynthia more business. All right, so next step, wire in the funds. So escrow is going to contact the buyer to wire in the initial deposit within 3 days. Talk about timelines real quick, because we mentioned the 3 days. So talk about how you manage timelines.
So in the beginning of the transaction, I'll make sure that I create your timeline for you. And then I will send you a calendar invite, so you'll have it in your calendar as well. And then I make sure that every Thursday you get a reminder as well via email or text saying, this is your timeline.
So this is another thing that I love, because I'm one of those that's like, yeah, I know that the inspection contingency is due on the 10th, but I have no idea what the date is today. So I'm not going to remember if that's tomorrow or if that's yesterday. So I really rely on things being in my calendar and then getting those reminder emails. So when we talk about wiring in the funds, this is something that we want to make sure it's confirmed that it's gotten in there. And so having multiple eyes on it to know like, oh, escrow hasn't confirmed that we got the wire, you know, the EMD in yet. This is a really important thing for us to confirm. So I know I was just working with an agent. Actually, I was the buyer and I did this strategically, but I did not send my EMD in yet because it was a little bit funky. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'll tell you later though, whole gory details of it. But we were like far into it and she was like, well, did you ever send in your wire funds? And I said, no, we haven't sent it in yet. And she was like, what? She had no idea. And I was like, you should be on top of this. You should know. Anyway, it's easy for us to not know because if you're the listing agent, you just assume that it's in, but you have to confirm that some of these things have happened. And our TCs help with that. So seller disclosures, SPQ, TDS, they're sent to, well, these are sent to the buyers, but before they're sent to the buyers, we send them to the sellers. At what point do you send them to the sellers?
So it's really the listing agent's choice. I have agents that want to start preparing or at listing. Some do it with them as they sign the listing contract. It's documents. They also add to that too. Sometimes they don't. They want to do it until the offer has been accepted. So I make sure I send it to the clients to complete that offer.
It's definitely valuable, in my opinion, to have it beforehand, just because it's nice. You know, these are the seller disclosures. So they're disclosing everything that they know about the property. And for myself, for my sake, I want to know what's going on with the property too before we list it. So I want to get all of that information in beforehand. So I think this is valuable to have sent. And so I always ask Cynthia to send it as soon as we have the listing agreement. I say, go ahead and send them the disclosures to fill out. Then we have escrow orders, NHD title, other required docs like HOA or government required point of sale things, all of that kind of stuff. Escrow usually orders that. And again, that's something that you're able to stay on top of, because if it says it in the RPA, then you're able to say, hey, these are some of the things that still need to be done. Most of the time escrow's on top of it, but
Yeah, most of the time, yeah, I get it right at opening package, it's included. The only time that really doesn't happen, in my experience, is when it's an outside, out of the area escrow. They usually work a little different.
Yeah.
Ask them to do this or ask them to order that. But if it's a local escrow, they pretty much work the same and they order it all together.
well, and that's something too, just for me, I am not necessarily thinking, oh, I have to ask them to order these things, because in my experience, they just order them and they show up in my inbox. So, you know, it just, for me, I feel like having a TC makes it so that you have that checks and balances. And so I don't have to be the one that's always like knowing exactly what needs to come next and what we have received and what we haven't received. All right, keep it going. Let's keep going here. There we go. Number 4, inspections. So the buyer agent usually schedules the inspections for home and pest. Those are generally the main inspections that you schedule right away. And then if something comes up and the buyer requests other inspections, and the buyer is going to request that, and then you can either schedule that, you can arrange that as the buyer's agent, and then you arrange that with the listing agent. So tell us.
And on this, it's important for you to keep the TC in the loop. If home inspections are scheduled or if they were waived, that way I know to prepare a waiver for you. If I don't get anything and it's close to time to remove contingencies on that, I will say, hey, was there an inspection? Did you forget to send it to me? Or are we waiving it out?
So as far as like waiving the inspections, there is a form to fill out, but you are able to fill out that form and send it.
I'm able to pull it and send it to your buyers to initial.
Yeah.
That's waived.
So we don't have to necessarily initiate all of those forms as well. All right, and then the appraisal comes, the lender orders the appraisal, and then the appraiser schedules usually with the listing agent. This again is something that we have timelines, we have contingencies. And so that's one of the things that Cynthia is keeping us on track with.
So if you're representing the buyer, I make sure that every Tuesday I follow up with your lender. And that's one of the questions I ask. Has appraisal been ordered? Do we have it back? So every week I send that same email until they say, yes, we're good. It came out value, or no, we have issues. But I definitely touch bases with the lender every Tuesday regarding that.
I actually did not even know that. That's so nice. All right, talking about requests for repair. So the buyer's agent requests repairs or credits if desired by the buyer. So we're looking to fill out the RR, the request for repair form, or R, and then potentially the RRRR, which is the response to the request for repair. And so those things might come in, they might not. If your buyer is like, nope, we'll take it as is, we don't want to ask for any repairs, then you don't need to worry about that. If you get an RR and the seller says, nope, we're good with this as is, then they'll sign off on it. They don't need to worry about that. So Cynthia, then what would be your role in there?
So again, on this, you would want to CC me it to make sure that I know that you sent it out, you prepared it. So I know that I should be following up on a response from the agent.
Or knowing that you're not going to send one.
Or say, or no repairs, no inspections, we're good. So at least I check that item off my list and I know I don't have to follow up on that anymore.
All right, number 7, the Avid. So both the buyer and the listing agents fill out the Avid. We have, I know we've been talking a lot about how to fill this out and making sure you're filling it out right and all of that kind of stuff, because there is certain language you want to use and you don't want to use. So be sure you're filling it out right. I actually have a video coming up where I'm walking through filling out the Avid in the next couple days. So keep an eye out for that. Make sure you follow along on my YouTube channel. But what's your role in this?
So on this,
With
I'm gonna
Avid.
send you reminders. I need your Avid, please complete your Avid. It's usually a document that's kind of forgotten. And agents really, for some reason, they wait till the last minute to complete it, but I will make sure that I start emailing you, asking you for your Avid.
Well, it's one of those things too, that like you usually do it when you're at the property. And so if you forget to do it when you're there, it's like, now I have to schedule the time to go and check it out, whether you're on the buyer side or the seller side. It's the same kind of thing.
I always encourage agents to do it when you go do the inspection. If you're gonna be present, just do it there.
Yeah, and just a reminder, the best practice is fill out your Avid before the inspection happens, because you don't want to be putting in there all of the things that the inspector has pointed out to you. If you need to do anything like that, you can say, refer to the home inspection report, but you really want to be doing it as the agent having a visual inspection.
And one of the things some of my agents do for their Avid, if they don't have paper or their Avid with them, they just videotape it. And they walk into the property recording and speaking to themselves what they find in the property. And then when they do get to their home or to their office, they just type it up. So that kind of helps.
Also, quick side note, I really like, and I know Cynthia uses, I really like using Glide for the Avid specifically, because it has like a walkthrough workflow kind of thing for you. So it says like, are you at the location right now? And then it pulls up the location property address, it pulls up the weather, it pulls up like everything in there. And then you can just walk through the hallway and you can note what it has. The living room, you can note what it has, all of that kind of stuff. And you just do it while you're there. If the only times I don't do that is if like I don't have good signal or something like that. I can't do it on my phone, but it's super easy. Once you have it on your phone, you walk through it like that. It creates the PDF, and then Cynthia has it to send off to your buyers or sellers. It makes it very easy.
And the same with the disclosures, when I send it to sellers, it's the same thing. It's not just answer the question, they actually get diagrams and it helps them complete the disclosures correctly.
You know, that's through Glide because it's
Glide,
a
yeah.
walkthrough. So I actually have filled it out for myself where I just, like as a seller or as a buyer, no, as a seller, I would fill it out with the form, and the form it has a lot of words, but it's not necessarily that complicated, but doing it through Glide makes it so much easier. It like leaves no room for error. So I definitely recommend that to any of my clients. I always am just like, just fill it out through Glide because it's super simple.
Okay, before we jump to the next topic, I want to remind you that if you're looking for even more real estate resources like a social media content calendar or an open house roadmap, visit the link in the description below because I have just that for you. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you get more videos just like this as soon as they come out. Now let's keep going with today's training.
Contingency removal. So contingencies do not expire. They have to be proactively removed. So even if you have a contingency date that is a 10-day inspection contingency, those 10 days come and go, it doesn't expire. So you have to actually remove it. So it's good to know on the listing side that you need to, if that timeline is coming up, you need to reach out and ask that buyer's agent if the contingency is going to be removed. So I know you.
So I do send out reminders as well. If we're the listing agent, we'll send a reminder to your buyer's agent saying, hey, this is due. Are you expecting an extension or what's going on? What's the status? Please reach out to Brittany to negotiate anything, as far as dates.
And it's really helpful for this because again, this is one of those things where if you have a bunch of stuff going on, it's really easy to forget those dates have come and gone. And if the buyer's agent is like counting on that, then it's very easy to just be like, oops, it's 4 days later, your contingency expired, last week. And so it's nice to be able to be on top of it and even just like start that conversation. So the agents being in communication is the most important thing. So if they need to extend it or whatever, you can just say, great, no problem, just fill out the extension and send it on over. Or, whatever the situation is, but the communication is really important. And I feel like I'm not even prompted to have that communication until I realize, oh, that date is coming up quick. And then the final walkthrough. So the buyer The buyer walks through the property within 5 days of closing to verify the condition is satisfactory. And the form we fill out there is the VP. So I know you're able to send out the VP,
As long
but
as
when
you give me instructions, as long as you give me instructions, I can copy and paste whatever notation you want me to put on there, and then I'll send it out for signatures.
So that's the same kind of thing as like, might be like a negotiation point or something like that. So she can't necessarily generate this and put all this information in. But if we say, put this information in, then she can copy and paste it, put it into the document and send it out for us. So, and hopefully, ideally, we put nothing in there because it basically says everything is satisfactory except, and then you list it out. So hopefully everything is satisfactory. You just send it on saying, yep, we're good to go. Okay, and then we are cleared to close. This is if you are working with a lender. So some of these things like the appraisal doesn't necessarily apply to a cash deal. So this one is another one that doesn't apply to a cash deal, but the lender is going to confirm final approval and sends forms to escrow for buyer to notarize. So this is really important when you're coming on your final last few days. It's important to remember that clear to close doesn't mean that you're closing that day. And it doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to close the next day, because if it's a Friday and you get a clear to close, you're probably not closing until Tuesday. So it's important to just know how this comes in the process of it. And that's another thing that, you know, like, unless you're doing this a lot, you don't really have a good grasp on the timeline. Any comments on that?
No, well, pretty much, you know, clear to close is more of the lender part of it, knowing that, you know, the loan is good, everything we're moving forward. And if it's a cue for us to make sure that our file is complete, any last document that we need to collect, this is the time to do it.
Yeah. And then the buyer sends the final funds into escrow. They wire the down payment. And we record and close. So recording happens with the city, which is what escrow does for you. And then the buyer receives keys usually upon recordation. So as soon as it's recorded, usually in the RPA, the default is that the buyer has, what's the word? Occupancy? No, what's
Possession.
the word? Possession, thank you. So the buyer gets possession as soon as it's recorded. Any thoughts on that?
No. Yeah, usually, you know, right at closing, you know, the client gets the keys. I do send thank yous. I do send the thank you to all the parties when we close. I do set up anniversary emails for my agent too, just reminding them in 6 months, you close this file, call your client a year. I do make sure that your buyer also gets home warranty information at closing. And I do request a review on my agent's behalf from that client, either if it's listing or buyers.
So it's so nice to be able to have like a system like this in place, because a lot of that stuff, we would have to create those systems for us to either remember to do that or to like make sure that it's happening, which we could do with smart plans, and we can have all that. You know, I have a lot of these things in place, but I don't know about you. A lot of times I just kind of ignore some of that stuff. But if I get an email from Cynthia, I'm like, oh yeah, oh, I remember I had that anniversary coming up. Yes, I do need to take care of it. It's just a second step, you know. What I really like the idea of getting the review. This is something that I've been like hearing about a lot and wanting to improve myself, is just getting those reviews and making sure to be on top of it. And this is just another touch point of getting the review. The client is getting asked for a review. So it's super, super helpful. And I think that's something that's kind of overlooked in some of this, is that she just has so many systems that are not just meant for the transaction, but are meant to help you and your client's relationship so that you can set yourself up for the next transaction.
And that's usually what my selling point when I do meet with brokerages or agents. You know, my philosophy is that TC is not just a file close in the next. To me, is I really work with the agent to make sure that they keep those relationships with their buyer or their seller. Another thing that I also want to mention that I do is I do send the final statement every first of the year to your clients, saying on behalf of Brittany, here's your final statement. Tax season is around the corner. I want to make sure you have it handy. So anything that I can do to make sure my agent, okay, Brittany looks good in front of their clients, that's what I'm going to do. That's a plus for them.
Yeah, and that's another good way for you to stay in contact. I try and always do that, send the final statements. Again, you can find that in your opportunities in command. You can find the final statement and send that to them. But if they're getting it from Cynthia and from you, that's just another reminder of like, oh yeah, they really took care of me on this deal, and they're not gonna call it a deal, but you know what I mean? They really took care of me. And I think that's gonna be, you know, I know that that is something that they look back positively on, is you're a team, you're working together as a team. So even as a solo agent, you have a team, and this is part of your team. I think that there are a lot of agents who either start off not using a TC, or they're just trying to see how it goes without using a TC. And I think that's a good thing to do to really get to know the process. But I also think, why? Why do we do that? And why do we put ourselves through that? Because we can learn the process just as well when we have somebody who knows what they're doing working through it. So I am always a proponent for having a TC. By the way, I get nothing for this. I get good vibes coming from Cynthia. So this is all, I mean, this is all just because I believe in having a TC.
Your experience with it.
Yeah, as long as you have a TC, I mean, at the end of the day, all your TCs will close a file for you. Really, the difference is the value that we give you and the availability. That's like a big plus also. But everybody, all the TCs are good and they will close it, but it's just the value that we're willing to offer you and how well we're willing to work with you for you to become a better agent.
Yeah. All right, so let's jump into our command opportunities. Let's see. So I want to just touch on the checklist, because I think I want to talk about what you do in command, but then I also want to talk about the checklist in command. And I do have a checklist that I am working on improving, but I do have a checklist that I can send you. Do you have a checklist to send to agents?
In my system, yes. I work out of my system.
So no checklist that you, like a PDF that you could send? Okay, well, I have a PDF that I can send you. So just email me and I will send it to you. But, whoops, let's jump into command and talk about how we do these checklists. So where we are going is we are going to the opportunities little handshake icon. So I'm going to click on those opportunities. And I'm going to click on, in my listings, we have this active, and I'm going to click on that. And I'm just going to click on one to give you an example of what I have. What you'll notice, you probably can't tell because it's so teeny tiny, but I have these numbers here, this checklist here, and I have these numbers. Yours are all going to say 0 out of 0. I wish, and I hope, and I have put into ideas.kw.com that I could just like share my checklist with you. If you could, like, I could publish it and you could just say, yes, I'll adopt that. And then you could edit it. We can't do that. So I have to give you a PDF of a checklist, and then you have to go and put these in. But it's so helpful, because if I click on it, you can see we have all of these things. So like this is in the prep listings phase. Send seller disclosures. Am I doing that? No, Cynthia does that. But I want to make sure that I've confirmed that they've got it. I've confirmed that they've received it, because I still need to be on top of this transaction. I'm not just passing it over and saying, okay, great, moving on to the next. I'm still very much an active part of this process. So I am making sure that we make sure that the seller disclosures have been sent. I order a mid-listing gift. This is something that I do a lot of times just to get, you know, good vibes going through our listing. Send our TC the seller contact info. So that's going to be like in the prep of the listing. So I'm doing all of these things in the prep section. Ask escrow to open pre-list escrow and order title. And I want to make sure to CC my TC so that she's seeing everything that's going on. And from the beginning, I can say, make sure to CC Cynthia on everything you send to me. So all of these checklists are really, really helpful. And then going into the marketing and showing, you can see I ordered photography, I am getting keys, I'm adding it to the MLS, I'm creating a landing page, creating a listing video, complete Avid. You can see I haven't done that yet for this one. So I want to make sure that that's on there. So this is super helpful. You can also have it, I was gonna say, yes, you can add a due date. And then if I add a due date on there, it'll pop up into my tasks when it's due. So then I can say, oh yeah, I need to make sure that I'm doing that Avid when I go for the photos on that date. So I want to make sure that I'm remembering that, and then it'll pop up in those tasks. So this is super, super, super helpful. And yes, question.
Sorry. Did you say that, because I don't have anything active, so when I was to put, something inactive, that would show up, but you put all those, did you say you put those in?
Yes, so if we go up here to the stages and checklists, this is where we can edit that. So
you create it.
You add it.
Yeah, you
Okay.
create whatever
Correct.
list you like, yeah.
So you can put
Where does
anything
it come from?
in there. Yes,
Create it.
exactly. And that's what I'm saying. I wish that there was a way that I could just like forward this over and you could just say, yes, I want to use that. There's no way to do that right now. So right now, when I go to edit those stages and the checklists, this is where I'm editing, and it's just like the templates. You're editing the template. So this is going to be for every single transaction. When you go into that transaction, like the one that I just pulled up, that's where you're going to be able to edit the individual transaction. So if I say, oh, this is a cash offer, so we don't need to worry about appraisal, we don't need to worry about the contacting the lender, anything like that, I just remove all of those. Or if I say, okay, with this one, I need to make sure that I do something else.
HOA docs.
HOA docs, it's not something that everybody has. So I need to make sure that I have HOA docs. I just add it into the one transaction. So here though, is where we would add, like if I just click on it, this is where we would add our tasks. So we just go here and you can see I have a lot on here for the marketing and prepping piece, because I want to make sure that I am getting everything ready. I have on here, like market on social media, create Facebook paid ads. I want to send out a just listed postcard. There are a lot of things that I want to do, but maybe I don't want to do that for a certain transaction. So I just go into the one transaction and I delete that one thing from the one transaction. So we're not going to go into this today in depth, even though this is, I always tell people this is a hidden gem and you should always be using it because it's just so helpful. But one thing I will speak to is that when I pull this up, I'm only in this active stage. I know it's so tiny, you can't see it. I'm only in the active stage. So if I want to go out here, I just click on under contract or a different stage, whatever. And I go click again on the stages and checklist. And now I'm in here. We are escrow contingency period clear to close. And then I have the checklist items there as well. So you can really change this and have it be exactly what you want it to be. And again, it's just super helpful. So making sure we're sending the executed offer to the TC. We want to make sure that we're doing that because if you're busy, it is easy to be like, oh yeah, I CC'd them, I sent it to them, they got it. And in actuality, like nothing's happened because they haven't actually sent it. Change the status in the MLS. This is another one that easily gets forgotten when you're in the midst of all the busyness. Confirm that earnest money deposit. Make sure that you're doing all of these things. And again, they're just easy to forget. So all of these things are not necessarily things that you have to do as the agent, but this checklist is yours. So you create it however you want it to be. And so if it's stuff that you're like, I don't need to worry about what the TC is doing, then don't put that on there because the TC is not going into my checklist. Cynthia is not going into my checklist. That's what I'm doing. So Cynthia, tell us what you're doing in Command in our opportunities.
Sorry, can I ask one thing?
Yes.
So I don't have access to this yet.
Okay.
I'm getting set up today.
Yes.
But what is the icon that you call it on the side?
It's called opportunities. It's a little handshake. All right, so Cynthia, come on back over here and tell us what you do on here.
My role, when you do, let's say you get a listing. So you're gonna fully execute a listing, you send it to me, I make sure the opportunity is created if you haven't created it already, and then I upload everything that's fully executed. If you miss a signature and initial date, I will not upload that until we get that corrected. his compliance is just gonna kick it back. So if it's a purchase contract, you're representing the buyer, the same thing. If you haven't created the opportunity already, I'll create it for you to make sure that, and I move it into under contract.
Yeah, she always moves it
I
into
will move
the
it to the
appropriate
phase,
fields.
yeah.
So I pulled one up and we'll just call this a sample.
Mhm.
So if I go into documents right here, this is where we're going to find all of our documents that Cynthia is uploading. So you can see that we have different like categories listed, under contract, and closed. And you can see where we have, there are some that are open, some that are returned, and then closed doesn't have anything on it yet because we're not closed yet. So if you go in here, you can see that if I say, oh, did I get that AD filled out? I can click on it and it is what she has uploaded. And so I can see the information on here. I actually was on the phone with a client today and I did this exact thing. We had been under contract before and he was like, what were we under contract before? And I was like, I think it's this, but let me pull it up. I go into command and I pulled it up pretty quick and easy. So this is a really, really helpful tool. Again, we have like the BRBC. Now, this is something that you can update yourself. But again, it's about what do we need to spend our time doing? So every so often, if I have a BRBC for a client and I want to make sure I don't lose it, but we don't have any offers out yet, there's no reason for me to have sent it to Cynthia yet or something like that, I do upload that myself because this is connected. Now, again, this is for like, you don't have to worry about connecting it to DocuSign or anything like that. However, if it is connected to your DocuSign, you just click this go to transaction and it goes to your transaction that you've created in DocuSign. And then when you need to upload something over here where it says select, you just click on it and you have all of your documents from DocuSign. So this is not how you would do it.
I have some agents that I will connect it to your DocuSign because they prefer to use DocuSign.
So I use DocuSign, but even still,
Glide is just so much easier for your clients.
it's so much, the client facing is much easier. So the way, go ahead, sorry.
What is Glide?
It's like DocuSign. It's an electronic system to collect signatures and initials, and it's a free service for the agents as long as you have a car membership and car forms, and it connects to cars. So instead of, it connects to cars, so instead of you giving me your login to car forms, zip forms, web forms, whatever you guys just call it,
Yeah.
I just have my own login through Glide. I send you an invitation via email, you give me access, and it connects to car forms. So I'm able to prepare all your documents through Glide, and it pulls it from cars.
So it's instead of like DocuSign.
Yeah, and the benefit to using it is really, I think for me personally, the benefit is the client interface because it is so easy, especially when they need to walk through and fill out forms. It's much easier. If they're just signing, I think DocuSign is easy, anything is easy. But Cynthia uses Glide mainly, and then she's able to keep all the files together and then she uploads them into command.
Yeah, it really helps the client with each question. There's a diagram, there's a paragraph. It's a little bit easier explanation, how to answer the question if they don't understand how to answer.
I see.
DocuSign is just, they have to read the question, yes or no, and that's it.
Yeah.
But with Glide, it just really helps them understand what the question is asking.
So it's one or the other.
Well, and I use DocuSign for like, if I'm sending something to my clients, I'll use DocuSign and then she creates Glide and we'll send the rest of the stuff. So for instance, I had a listing agreement that I got signed, but then I said, okay, go ahead and send them to the disclosures, and she sent it through Glide. So all of the files are stored in command. So you can use whatever kind of electronic.
There are different forms, like you can do different forms for different things.
Well, they're all zip forms and they're all pulled in from zip forms.
Okay.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, DocuSign pulls from zip forms, Glide pulls from zip forms, so they're all the car forms.
The thing I do want to mention that I've noticed recently in one of my recent files is DocuForms are not updated forms.
From
And
Docu-
from
from-
Docu.
So that, okay,
So they're
that's
not
gets us
updated
into
forms?
another thing.
And so I've been trying to really push agents to use Glide because that forms are more updated because I'm pulling straight through one forms.
And so DocuSign has their own forms basically, but then they also have a section where they can pull from zip forms, but you have to connect that. And that's another, like for some people who are like, I don't have that in me, it's another harder thing. So it's really what your preference is, but the preference is like, I do think that Glide is really easy. I haven't used it like for a full transaction, but I know you do, and it's.
I love it, yeah, it's easy.
Question.
You said that Glide had, like, when you walk through into the visual report or whatever, does DocuSign have things like that too?
DocuSign doesn't have anything like that. Neither does Zip Forms. It's just, here's the form, fill it out. And Glide has like the.
Interactive, it's very interactive, yeah.
Adam, do you use Glide ever? Have you ever used it? Oh, do you ever use it for the Avid?
Yes.
Yeah.
The TDS, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it is really, it makes a big difference.
And I feel like people don't realize, Glide is free for you as long as you have, your paid zip form membership. It's free. It's not an additional cost.
That's cool.
Yeah. So then we have, I just want to quickly show you under contract, we have all of these. Now, when you look at this, some of these say required, some of these say conditional, because you're saying like, for instance, this says buyer counter offer. Well, you don't have to have a buyer counter offer. They might have just signed off on it. But if you have a buyer counter offer, it does have to go in here. So our compliance people are in here looking at this. And so they're going to send a message saying, hey, something's missing, or they're going to bounce it back saying, nope, it's still missing a signature or whatever. And then Cynthia is going to take that and run with it and finish up whatever needs to be done, getting that signature or asking me what needs to happen or whatever. She's going to be the one to do it.
Yes.
So like if I get a notice on my command from compliance, I really don't even have to pay any attention to it because she's
already taking care of it.
she's already on top of it. And then also when we go into closed, one of the things that I use a lot is this, I go into the home warranty because I want to see what, maybe I need to be like, what home warranty did they get again? Let me pull it up and send it to them because they're asking me for it. And then the other thing is this final closing statement. I always want to make sure that they have the final closing statement around, like she sends it on the 1st. I want to send it on like the 20th maybe of January. Just again, another touch point for us. So this is where it's all stored.
Another thing I want to mention also, if you have a form that you don't see listed here, you can create a space for it, a placeholder. So if it's, let's say you did a specific chimney inspection or something that is very unusual, or roof or balcony or whatever it might be, I can create a space for it and label it whatever I want. So I can put in the form there for you in your file.
The other nice thing too is that like, so right now there's nothing here for home warranty. If I click on it, then it has a sample. This is a sample,
Exactly.
but normally it says sample on it. Like if I go into this, we have the sample of a listing agreement. So you can, like check this out. You can download this as a sample. Sometimes I like to send samples to my clients of like, this is what I'm going to be sending you. Let's walk through it or something like that. I can download it from here and it's kind of it's just a little cheat code. Any final comments about command opportunities?
Mainly more, if you know your client, you know your seller, you know your buyer, you know how tech savvy they are, if DocuSign might work for them, they pretty much are good with just answering the question. But if it's somebody that needs a little bit more assistance, then Glide would be the best bet for them. Because again, it's whatever your client's more comfortable with and what you feel. Because it's one less question that you need to answer, one less phone call from them, or one less email that you're gonna get if it's easier for them to do on their own.
There you go. Any questions about command opportunities, checklists? Another thing on the checklist that I didn't mention, there is a little icon that you can choose to say that it's that you want the client to be notified. The client is only going to get notified of that. So say like photography ordered, you want to, once you check it off, you want it to send an email automatically that says, hey, the photography has been ordered. You can only send that. They'll only receive that if they're registered with your website or with your app. So if you don't push that, then they're not gonna get that. But highly recommend the checklist. And remember, if you want a checklist, reach out to me, I'll send you one. So let's talk about your team. Remember I said, even if you're not on a team, you have a team, and your greatest asset is going to be your transaction coordinator, your TC. You have a lot of other people on your team, your lender, your escrow person, your title, your NHD, which is natural hazard disclosure, your home warranty, the compliance in your office. You have lots of people on your team. These are the people who you want to use what they're giving you. So, you know, like when we talk about title, working with title, all they do is like show you that there's a clean title. And if not, they help you figure it out. They help you work it out. But a lot of times it's, you know, in a residential, it's clean title. Here you go, the end. That's why part of their service and part of their offering for you is to do like giving you the farm information and giving you more information about that kind of stuff, because title wants you to use them. So take advantage of what they have to offer and get to know what they have to offer. Call your NHD people and be like, what the heck do you do? What do you have that's better than the next person? Your home warranty people, what do you do and how are you part of this transaction?
What's NHD?
NHD is natural hazard disclosure, which is basically talking about, is this in a flood zone, earthquake zone, fire zone, that kind of thing. It's a disclosure for the buyers to know what is going on with the environment of that property that they're purchasing. But a good question for your NHD person, what the heck do you do? So Cynthia, any comments on your team and how you interact with them, or
And you know, I think it's important for you to realize, like Brittany said, even if you're a single agent, you do have a team behind you. And you need to just create the team that works for you. Maybe me as a TC is not a good fit for you, maybe find another TC. So you really just have to find the team that works good for you. If it's home warranty, if it's escrow, if it's title, because they're helping you create this business. And you are your own business, you're self-employed. So you want to make sure that you're a good fit in your team.
Another major asset, and I would highly recommend, is Cynthia's bilingual. And so she speaks fluent English, obviously, and Spanish. And so, you know, we work with people sometimes who might speak other languages. And unfortunately, the forms don't come in other languages. They should, but they don't. And so we have somebody on our team who's able to help with that and help through the process. The same kind of thing is like a lender. If you have a lot of clients who speak another language, find a lender who speaks that language. You don't want to be doing this massive, difficult transaction and having to translate everything back and forth. I would also say, sadly, if you're like me and only speak one language, if you have somebody who only primarily speaks a different language than what you speak, get to know other agents and refer it out, because that's gonna be your best bet. Still get a little bit of a referral fee for that, but refer it out, because it is not going to be, you're not going to be able to do the best service to them when you can't communicate.
And it's double work. It's double work. You have to, for example, if you have a TC, for example, that's not bilingual, you basically have to call the client and translate everything that I'm sending via email. So it really, it's costs more time. It's a lot more time spent on this transaction than it's needed.
All right, so let's talk about how we win. We're wrapping this thing up. So what is important now? Obviously, we want you to create your checklist, because that is what I think is very beneficial for you. Use the checklist to create checklists in opportunities, all right? Use the checklist to create your checklist in your opportunities and commands. So if I'll send you a PDF, you're gonna have to actually put it into your command. And it's kind of like what we did today, where we spent a little extra time going through those templates, but it saves you so much time in the long run. So take a little bit of time, create those checklists, because in the long run, having checklists is so important for you. There's a reason why airline pilots go through a checklist every single time they take off, because even if you've done this 1,000 times, especially if you're busy, if there's something going on in your life, if something's happening, use those checklists, because as much as you have your team, you still have to be on top of it. You are still your client's main point of contact. And so you have to make sure you know what's going on. And if you're just like, well, I'm relying on my TC, that's not gonna fly. You're gonna need to make sure that you know what's going on too.
And the beauty on checklist is custom made to you.
Yep.
So whatever you feel you need, whatever reminders you feel like you need, whatever thing you feel like you forget, falls through the cracks, that's what you want to add to your list. If it's a
Absolutely.
listing, ask somebody to put up the post, order, it's whatever you feel you need to remind yourself to get that task done.
And even stuff that you think, oh, I'm not gonna forget this, as you get busy, as life happens, as you have 3, 4, 5, 6 listings at a time, you're gonna forget something. Some things are gonna fall through the cracks. All right, number 2, meet your team. Schedule your meetings with your allied resources and be ready when you have a transaction. So like I said, talk to those lenders, get a couple of lenders in your back pocket, talk to your title reps and see what they have to offer you. So make sure that you meet your team, talk to your TCs, and really make that decision so that when you have a transaction, you're ready to go. And then number 3, get a TC. If you don't have a trusted transaction coordinator, call Cynthia today. Here is her contact info again, so be sure to write that down, check that off. Any final thoughts? Oh, someone on Zoom, question?
Yeah, the most important thing is, yes, create your team, create the TC that you work good with. You definitely have to have a good working relationship with them. You need to trust your TC, trust that, if you don't get paid, I don't get paid. If it falls out of escrow, none of us get paid. So I'm gonna really try my best to make sure that your transaction closing is successful closing.
And the other thing, we were just talking about this earlier today, is that, like if you have major questions about the transaction or something that's going on, you need to go to your broker first, because your broker is the one who determines this is what we do in our area, in our region, in our office, all of that. Cynthia is not necessarily going to be the one to determine that for you. What Cynthia can do is she can say, hey, this is what other agents have done. This is what typically is done. This is like best practice for the transaction. But if you're in kind of a weird transaction, your broker is the one to go to.
Yeah, and I'm always gonna say that, like best practices is A, B, and C, but I always refer you to your broker. Each brokerage office do things a little different, and they all interpret the paperwork a little different, so you just always wanna follow whatever your specific broker tells you.
Yeah, and if your broker tells you something different than I tell you, or she tells you, go with what your broker
What your
says.
broker tells you.
Do you have a question, Austin?
Yeah, so you get part of the commission?
No,
Wait,
I don't
how's it
get,
work then?
well, you pay me a fee per file,
Okay,
and that comes out of escrow from your commission.
got it. But it's like a set fee?
Yes, it'll be a set fee per transaction.
All right, and let's see, finally, we're done. Next week, we're talking about unlocking financial freedom, how to manage your commission checks. So as those commission checks start coming in, we need to figure out how to manage them. Where should they go? What do we need to allocate? As we're getting into the last quarter, we're fully in the last quarter now of the year, we want to make sure that we're setting ourselves up for success. So make sure that as those checks come in, we know exactly where they go as soon as we get them. Because I don't know about you, but going from, I had a W-2 job before this, going from that to an irregular income was tough for me. And so I needed to have some systems in place. So we're going to talk about how to manage your commission so that you can have that financial freedom, which is what everybody's looking for in real estate. And then of course, make sure that you're following on YouTube. All of these classes and much, much more are actually on my YouTube channel. So if you missed something, or if you want to go back and take a look, go to my YouTube channel, subscribe, and then you'll get all of the stuff. Usually I do an extra video each week that has nothing to do with these classes, so you can go on and see that as well. And then of course I have started this new program, Collab and Close. So this is specifically for agents who are maybe a new agent and you have a listing or a buyer, or you're not working full-time in real estate and need somebody to come alongside you, or you have a challenging client or property. So this is a partnership where you and I collaborate together. Of course, we bring on Cynthia as part of our team, and we get it to the close. So if you're interested in something, schedule a call with me, and I would be happy to meet and talk about your specific situation.
Don't forget, we're here every Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Join me live by registering at the link in the description below and get your questions answered in real time. I love helping you succeed. Thanks for joining me for another Build Your Business with Brittany. Let's keep building, growing, and closing those deals. I'll see you next Thursday at 2 p.m.